Hello and welcome back to How to Connect with Humans. And today it's episode 6 of our series. Hello, Wayne.
Hello.
Thank you for being here.
Thank you.
You're looking lovely.
Thank you. You too.
There's people around you. Get a room. Okay, so it's episode 6, and this one is called Beyond Self-Help. And we have somebody we love so much. We have our special guest is Jacquie Forde, and Jacquie was at the beginning of more than 6 years ago, when at least I get to know about the principles, and then I drag you along. And Jacquie, it's for me, she's an amazing woman. She's now an absolute power force. I can't imagine anything Jacquie would want to do or will put her head into seeing done and will not get done. And that's also what she helps other people do. She loves working with women at the moment. She's worked with lots of different people. Along her career, she was a nurse to start with. And when I knew, and then I read as well, that she was shy and she found it difficult to go around, and she had a lot of anxiety. I couldn't believe it, because this woman is just like, boom, it's like so sweet and kind, and at the same time so powerful. So we absolutely adore you, and join her. You have no other possibilities but to come and adore her as well.
It's a good job I do that, isn't it?
So welcome, Jacquie.
Yeah, thank you. I'm like, who are you talking about? I'm suddenly thinking that I should have a Marvel hero kind of named after me. Thank you for that very gracious introduction, and thank you for asking me to be a part of this. I'm delighted, and I'm delighted to see you two sharing so publicly.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So when you thought about beyond help, as beyond self-help, not beyond help, but it could be beyond help. So beyond self-help, that's the title that you went by. That's what I want to talk about. So what prompted you to be here today and talk about this?
Oh, there's it's sort of multifactorial, I think, Carolina and Wayne. That was my journey. You know, when I was a nurse and I was a midwife, I was shy. Like I wouldn't even talk to a nurse who was a year above me, because I felt she was cleverer than me and she was smarter than me, and that, that I was inferior in some way. And it was almost like I didn't want to open my mouth and prove that's, that I was a bit silly and whatever. And so at that young age, I used alcohol to give me confidence when I was out socialising. And when I was young, people just called that you were shy. There was no such thing as social anxiety. You were just shy. So at that young age, at 17 and a half, 18 and a half, I recognised that I had a feeling that I didn't like, especially when I was socialising. And the way that I could feel better, aka another feeling, was to drink. Which led to all sorts of adventures that I will not go into in this particularly proper webinar. But I always kind of, even though I was nursing and I was a bit shy, I kind of lived from this understanding, and that being a nurse, there's a lot of presence required. There's a lot of love required, a lot of understanding and empathy. And so I was okay. I didn't think there was anything wrong with me. I just thought I was a bit shy. It wasn't a problem. And in those cases where I could get a different feeling, then I would drink alcohol to feel better. And then I made a change in my career. I left nursing and midwifery and started to work in the pharmaceutical industry. as a sales representative. And I moved from a space where everybody was lovely, and everybody was kind and life was great and your job was about being of service and, seeing nice things happen and not so nice things happen, and seeing life being born and being with people as they took their last breaths. It was just a beautiful space to work in. To go from that into a pharmaceutical sales environment that is predominantly male dominated with a lot of ego instead of a lot of essence really messed my head up. I was very successful, had an incredible 27-year career in the pharmaceutical industry, doing everything from sales, marketing, business development, management, and latterly I was doing government affairs. But I honestly felt in the first couple of years, despite being incredibly successful, that I had been transported from this loving space of caring for people to being in a space where I was with Rottweilers who hadn't been fed for a week. There was anger, there was bitching, there was backbiting. It was a competitive sales environment. And I thought there was something wrong with me. I thought it was me. So I started to look outside of myself for answers. I started to buy books because somewhere along the line, during my nursing career, part of me had woken up. I wasn't looking for it, but something had happened. And I knew that I was the thinker. I knew that. And I knew that I thought a lot. I just knew it. And then I found a book. My first ever self-help book was called Women Who Think Too Much. So that was my introduction, and it was an amazing book. It showed me that I wasn't crazy, but this is a thing. Thought is a thing. And that was great knowing that, but I didn't really understand what to do with it. How did I sort it? How did I fix it? How did I get rid of it? And then I started during one of the sales conferences or sales trainings that we had in the company that I worked with, I was introduced to NLP. And oh my God, I love this stuff. So I trained as an NLP practitioner, and then an NLP advanced practitioner, and then a master practitioner, and then a hypnotherapist, and then an advanced trainer, whilst I was still working in the pharmaceutical companies, because by this point, my bill for self-development was so huge that I didn't want to take it out the family pot of money. So I was training other people, and I was helping other people with NLP to make the money that I needed to keep going to the courses, because I still didn't feel good enough. I still didn't feel I would be good enough at what I was doing. And there was still something about it that wasn't right. Something about it didn't feel right. There was an egocentricity to it. Again, a very male-dominated environment. And I still didn't know and feel that power that was in me. I thought it was in the techniques. I thought it was in the learning. And all throughout that, I was still buying books, self-help books. And I know many of you have heard this before, but it's a true fact that when our kids were little, we have 3 daughters, and I think they were about 7, 5, and 3 at the time. And we always went to bookstores on a Saturday at the weekend, and we would get them a wee drink, and it was all a big family adventure. And my husband loved sci-fi, so he'd be in the sci-fi section. The kids would be in the kids section. And if Jerry couldn't find me, there was one time he says to the girls, "Well, where's your mum?" And at 7, 5, and 3, my daughters knew I was in the self-help section. Their mum was looking for something. And they still wind me up about that, about being in the self-help section. And during that journey, I came across many books, and there was one book in particular that really helped me. And that was Richard Carlson's Don't Sweat the Small Stuff. Amazing book. That book changed my life. And it's only in hindsight that I found out that Richard and his father had actually trained with Sid Banks. So Richard was talking about the principles in his own unique way, but there was no credit given to Sid whatsoever. So in about the early 1990s, if that book had said this was the source, that's where I would have gone. Because it made so much sense. And it was written in a beautiful, ordinary language. Easy for people to understand, because I don't know if you guys know, but the average reading age all over the world is about 10 to 12 years old. Most people don't understand these big fancy woo-woo words that a lot of people use. So in that ordinary language, there's a feeling. In that ordinary conversation, there's a deep, deep feeling that transcends all of these words. And I felt that when I read that book. And it made sense to me. Being from Glasgow, where we don't have a lot of fancy language, we're very basic in our language. So yeah, that was my journey. And then I came across the principles via Michael Neill and Paul McKenna. I paid an exorbitant amount of money to spend a weekend with Michael and Paul at Paul McKenna's house in London. And I really was there to see Paul because I knew Paul. And I'd done some training courses with him. In fact, Helen and I used to go down and assist in some of Paul's courses down in London. And I wanted Paul McKenna to make me skinny. That's what I wanted. I wanted Paul McKenna to make me skinny. And I had this big wish list of what I wanted him to do. And Michael Neill told me 2 weeks before I went down that was the biggest litany of shit he'd ever heard in his life. So my wish list was a litany of shit. And like all of you, I burst out laughing because I thought somewhere deep within me, I knew that. And on the first day, Michael said something and I just burst out crying. Who knows what he said? Haven't a clue. And I went home that night and came back the next morning. And I'd had this kind of, like a picture in my head, a visual representation of a white flag being on one side of my brain and a white flag being on the other, and this sign that said surrender. And being a control freak, at the time it was kind of like, okay. So I asked Michael what that meant. And all he said to me, was, I love when things show up as literally as that, Jacquie. And he never told me anything else. And it was the best thing he ever did because it created this insatiable appetite and interest in knowing who is this guy, Michael Neill? Because to me, he was like Sideshow Bob to Paul McKenna. I was interested in Paul McKenna, not Michael Neill. And then I sort of listened into some of Michael's stuff, and then I found my way to Sid, and it was phenomenal. And at that point, I realised that I'd gone from searching to knowing. It was like the missing puzzle piece that underpins all of our human experience, the foundation. And the relief in knowing that was just absolutely phenomenal.
How funny! I still have the CD and the book from Paul McKenna on. I wanted him to make me skinny as well.
Yeah.
And it's funny how many people have come from the NLP sort of way, because I was about to train because it really helped me. It was very helpful.
Mm-hmm.
But I have this feeling that I needed to go back to get certain things sorted, right? And what I felt was that the practitioner was saying was fixing me.
Mm-hmm.
And I guess the big difference when we found the principles was that one of the first things I heard was like, I remember I signed up with Ian Watson and I went for this sort of weekend workshop. Didn't read what the workshop was about. I just like his previous stuff. So I just went in. And I went in and he said, well, he said, again, I don't know what he said, but he said something on the lines that basically this is how your human experience is perceived. And I'm going to be talking about the same thing in different words the whole weekend. So if you got it, just you can go out and enjoy your weekend. Don't come back. Sort of like the whole Sydney Banks, throw the tape out of the window if you've heard it. And when I look at him and I thought like, geez, this guy is such an intelligent, like wise guy, and he's come up with this nonsense, I was like, the whole weekend I was so disappointed. I was just like, just so simple and so silly. And but the first thing I also heard him say was, I'm just reminded you of something that is in you, that you know. That is what's gonna change things for you. That's what's gonna show you where to go next in a way. That was the end of the self-help section at the library for me too. Something in me was like, oh, I calmed down after that first, what is this nonsense? And something clicked in. It was that calmness. And I have to say, when I met Wayne about 7 years ago, he was way closer to this than I was. Because you have this like beautiful, simple way about you where you're like so contented and happy with simple things. And I don't know what's your feeling or your experience about this?
I don't know. I've always been, I want to say, searching, and because I never felt like I was good enough. I've always been told, you'll never be able to do this, you'll never be able to do that. And having a disability on top was just like the icing on the cake. But I think the first time I actually saw myself was when I first met you 7 years ago. And like you said, I don't even remember what you said. You literally walked into a room, started talking to me, and then that was it. I have no clue what you said, but I remember talking to you the next day and I said, I feel completely different, completely changed. And to this day, I still don't know what you said. But it just, over the last couple of weeks, I think for me, I've literally just seen that everything's all right. No matter what happens, everything's going to work out. Yeah. Especially with being in lockdown, being, in the pandemic and everything, it's just, okay, I can either completely freak out about, what's going to happen financially or anything like that, or I can just enjoy what's happening at the moment. And that's really calmed me down.
I think a lot of people have seen that and felt that. And that's kind of, when you look at who we really are and not who we think we are. When I was searching and searching, that wasn't my true nature. My true nature knew that everything was fine, absolutely fine as it was. It was the idea of who I thought I was that felt it needed to be fixed. Years of conditioning, like you just said, Wayne, years of other people's stories, wearing other people's thoughts and ideas and concepts, either that have been delivered via the media or via your friendship group or with your parents or your schooling. It's so subtle and so invisible that at various points in our life, we take these stories on completely unconsciously. And then we try to fix who we think we are. So we're on this sort of, this moving, like a wobble board. Because this idea of who we think we are is always changing. And yet, like you said, like you were searching, and often people say to me, I was searching, but they're searching from a space of a deeper knowing that there's something else that is important for them to know. That isn't an additive thing, it's a subtractive thing. And for me, that's what the principles brought to me, was this shedding, this unfolding of understanding that as a human being, I am both essence and ego, and being okay with that. Ego is not a bad thing. It's actually really quite hysterical. When you're not afraid of it, it's kind of like, oh, there I go. I'm making up who I think I am and what I think I should be doing. Mm. And my daughters, I have 3 daughters, 27, 25 and 22 and a half, because the half is important. And they've been fascinating during this whole lockdown thing, because I thought I'd shed a lot of the mother identity, the ego identity of mother and what I meant to do and how I meant to behave. And at the beginning of lockdown, it was difficult for people to get shopping slots for their shopping to come through. And so I took it upon myself that I had to get up at the crack of dawn to make sure all of my daughters had shopping slots so they would get their shopping. And 2 of my daughters were very grateful, especially Megan, who's been pregnant and had a baby during lockdown, and my youngest daughter, who thinks she's a princess and likes having her shopping delivered. But my middle daughter, Nikki, was just like, I don't want you to do that. I like shopping. And I was like, but I'm just trying to keep you safe. And she goes, Mum, you don't need to do that. I'm 25 years old. I know what to do. And then she says, Mum, you're just a feeder. And I was like, oh my God, she's so right. And sort of to have that fed back to you in a way that you can laugh about it rather than get angry about it. That I thought I was doing something good and nice and helpful. And to 2 of my daughters, they loved that. But this other one, who, my middle daughter, who is most like me, is kind of like a mirror. And she's showing me that I'm still playing with these ideas and concepts and beliefs of what a mother is and what a mother does. And so there's been this gorgeous shedding of, oh, there's another layer of story, idea, concepts of what I think I need to do, how I think I need to behave. And I'm always saying to them, I know that I'm not meeting the same person in you every time we speak, because I know that you've seen things and things have happened to you. And likewise, I'm the same. And this whole game of motherhood and wifehood and sisterhood and all these labels, layers are just gradually being taken off all the time. It's like, well, that's not true. And to be able to see your friends, your family, your clients from that space of, oh my God, you're just another soul like me on your journey. I might have been where you are, but I might not have been where you are. But I'll tell you something, I know how it works. Doesn't matter what's going on with you, I know how this works. And to sit in a space where you can hold space for someone to reveal who they are in any given moment of time, without judgment, just with love. And not just with love and compassion, because that's how we all work and we all get caught up. So instead of looking outside of myself for those answers, it's a settling into myself, just like you guys. It's a settling back into myself. That feeling, there's feelings that navigate you and let you know whether you're in your head or whether you're in your heart, whether you're in ego or whether you're in essence. And that's an invitation. Not to be afraid, not to get pissed off with yourself, not to be judgmental about what's going on, just to see it. And if you want to laugh hysterically, laugh hysterically. Fair enough. And if it doesn't seem funny just now, just hold it lightly.
I love what you say also, because I was thinking, so we were like in a constant sort of chasing, or at least I was in. So when I change and I am like this, then therefore I'll be happy. Therefore I'll be accepted. Therefore I'll be loved.
How did that work out for you, Carolina?
Not good. Because once you manage to sort of, if you manage to change something, if you manage to go on some stupid, ridiculous diet that you're suffering and doing things that they don't sort of come naturally to you, then you realize that it's not sorted out. And then there's something else. And then there's something else. Because you're looking for answers where the answers are not there. Mm-hmm. So it's just like, going and looking for your socks in the fruit drawer in the kitchen. Just, then, like, and I was listening to you and I thought, oh wow, so the being able to love who I am, the way I look, being happy in myself with who I am, that is an incredible gift. And I have to say, it took me some time, and I'm still for some things getting there. Because it's a lot easier to be, for my liking, to be seeking for where and then and something in the future when I'm happy. I have this sort of belief system that that's what I was supposed to do, because if I want to be better, right, that's what I should do. I should be better, not sit down and just be happy with whatever. I should just, but the possibility of being happy with who you are gives you this freedom that you don't have to go fix anything. And when I'm having some horrible thinking about myself, and hopefully I catch myself saying horrible things about me that I would never probably say to another human being. I can be sometimes the most cruel person in that sense. Mm-hmm. And when I can find myself saying that to me, there's freedom to realize that I don't have to do that. I don't need that. It's just a bad habit. And what needs to change, if, say, I need to find a more healthy way of living my life for health reasons. So that came to me as an insight. and again, it just finds its way. So I find my way, I follow that, and it's something that becomes natural and agreeing.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm not forcing myself to horrible things and habits that don't go with me.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, sorry.
No, it's okay. I was just going to say, it's like often, again, sort of that, when I was talking about sort of, our psychological nature and our spiritual nature, they're just part of, it's who we are. It's not a duality. It's a complete it's just who we are. So all the time, our humanness, our human brain is constantly, the left brain is constantly searching and categorizing and naming things and creating maps of experience. So it's doing that, and it's doing it mainly unconsciously. We don't know what's happening. So we're picking up things, and we're picking up language. And, you saying that here you were and you were speaking to yourself in a tonality and with language that wasn't very kind and wasn't very loving. And I often say to people, well, is that your voice or is that somebody else's voice? Is that something that you're saying to yourself? Is that something that you remember somebody else saying to you? And it could be the voice of a newscaster. It could be the voice of a teacher. It could be your mother. It could be anything. And in the recognition that most of us, most of the time, are actually hypnotizing ourselves with our own language patterns. We're using the gifts of mind, thought, and consciousness to mess ourselves up. And we don't even know that we're doing it. So there's there's an adventure. That's what it is. Nothing, when you really look at things objectively, are there bad thoughts? Are there happy thoughts? Are there, no. Are there bad experiences? Are there good? No. It's all experience. It's all thought. And it's the meaning that is added to that via consciousness and the stories that our brain brings up because it thinks it's being helpful, that seduces into that lowered state of awareness, that belief of whatever concept, idea, habit, whatever is going on. But all of it comes with a feeling. You know when you're in a beautiful space. You know that feeling of a quiet mind. It's like picking up a child for the first time, or holding someone that you love, or standing watching a sunset. It's like the feeling comes over you, and then your brain looks for the words to give it meaning. So that nameless feeling of essence, connection, consciousness, absolute consciousness. And you also know that feeling of not being in that space. And that feeling of not being in that space, which, to be honest, most of us don't live in that gorgeous space all the time. We oscillate, and I remember one of my mentees said to me, hey, Jackie, how often are you in that space? And I'm like, I said, I don't have an app that, that I record it. Either I'm in it or I'm not. But I do know when I'm not. And I'm becoming more and more aware of when I'm not. I'm not aware of it all the time. But when I know that I'm not, I know there's nothing to do. If there is something to do, wisdom will guide me to do something. And it might be go and get some sleep, have something to eat, go for a walk. Are you thirsty? Have a drink. There's something will come up that will tell me what to do. I'll be guided what to do. And sometimes it's a remembering of what worked for me the last time. But I don't, when I'm in that space, go into, why do I feel that way? What is it about? And you'll hear people saying this, it's like, it's not about the content of what you're thinking. It's about the fact that you think, and this is how you create your experience, and it never changes. So you're looking at the source, and the minute you look at the source, you see through what's happening. Instead of trying to figure out what's happening, you see through it. And that's excuse me, I'm going to swear, it's a bloody brilliant shortcut.
I mean, we don't care. You can say whatever you like.
Yeah, I won't use the F-bomb, but that one slipped out. But it's true. It's an amazing shortcut to a deeper understanding. And it's always there. It doesn't go away. And I often say to people, how many times have you been in that feeling and you've wanted a different feeling? You've been looking to self-soothe. So for me, it was alcohol, and it's been food, and it's been smoking, and it's been sex, and it's been all sorts of things, because I'm a woman, and going out with bad men and all that stuff. And it's recognising that I knew I was looking for a different feeling. I just didn't know why. And the only thing, the why was I was misunderstanding my experience, how I was creating my experience. How innocent is that? And so easy. And when you're able to be human about it, it helps people a lot. And the thing I was going to share there was that sometimes people, they know they don't feel good. They know they're in a different feeling and they don't like the feeling. And they automatically go into behaviours. And I often say to people, there's a way to circumvent that, to become the observer rather than the participant. And that is, if you have a feeling that you don't like, breathe. Breathe deeply. Breathe very deeply. Because when you breathe deeply, you can't think at the same time. And that gives you space to see what's meant to happen next. Because when we work in this understanding, you're working in that space before behaviour occurs. So there is an opportunity. The feeling is kind of like it's a warning signal. Something's changed. So by having this deep breath, this intake, you create space again. Not to go into the content, but to look towards the source. So it's good fun. So when I'm working with kids, I have them lying down and doing belly breathing and making their bellies really big and putting their hands on them and showing their mums how big they can get their bellies. When I'm working with young women who've got anorexia, I don't do that. Because that wouldn't be the right thing to do. So everybody's got their way of doing it. And it's just being, and I hope you can see I'm being playful about it. Because the one thing you want to exemplify all the time is to hold your experience of life lightly. When you show people that, I can have the darkest thoughts imaginable, and I've had them recently. To be able to hold that in one hand and observe it, and to be okay with it all, is an absolute gift. Does anybody have any questions even? That would be nice, Carolina, if anybody wants to ask something. Or
questions. Oh my, time flies. I can't believe it. So yeah, just let us so either you can raise your hand or you can write it on the chat if you would like us to ask the question.
Yeah. And it doesn't even need to be questions. It could be reflections or,
It could be anything you want to share. So please feel free. Let's see.
There's Lee waving his physical hand.
Yeah.
I am. I don't have a question as such, so I just love what you said, and it's. I'm actually doing. It's not been. It's still going on. I'm on this virtual 7-day retreat. I don't know if you've heard of I know it's so weird, isn't it? Virtual 7-day retreat. It's so cool because I can still do my work and I can be on this call and things like that. It's actually really good. But it's with a guy called Rupert Spira.
Oh, I've heard of Rupert Spira, yes.
Yeah. And oh my gosh, it's so amazing having understood the 3 principles. I can understand his world in the non-duality. Without that, because I come similar to yourself, it's so funny because I used to take part and used to be a leader for the NLP groups for Paul McKenna, and I used to be in the, what was it? I can't remember what it was, but the 4 Golden Rules, the 1-day seminar for Paul McKenna, and so I've probably met you at some point.
Probably.
You wouldn't actually know because similar to yourself, I was so shy.
Yeah.
That's what got me on that sort of self-help, just like you, is like the self-help. You want to find me, just look in the self-help section, exactly the same. I was just constant. But what I realized now, I didn't realize at the time, was I was constantly seeking out there.
Mm-hmm.
So I was seeking Paul McKenna, fix me, or Richard Bandler, or whoever it was.
But you got to love Richard Bandler.
Oh my gosh, he's amazing. Yeah. Love his humor. It's phenomenal. But, and I think Richard Bandler was so close. I really do, because the way he described NLP, I didn't realize at the time, was basically you're helping people realize that none of it matters. That
the map is not the territory.
Map is not the territory.
Lee, go back and look at the presuppositions. He was more on point than you. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's incredible. Now, understanding the principles going back is amazing, absolutely amazing. And anyway, so that's been my journey, and then the principles, amazing. And Rupert Spira gave this analogy, and I just wanted to share this. And this has really clicked with me. And it's metaphors. It might click, it might not. And he said that we're all of us are John Smith or Jane Smith, but it's really just John Smith. It's just a name, playing King Lear. Mm-hmm. And that completely and utterly put everything on point, because no longer could I possibly pick up a self-help book, because the self-help book would be helping King Lear.
Absolutely.
So how would I what would be the point of trying to fix King Lear? Mm-hmm. Because King Lear is a made-up concept. Uh-huh. It's something I'm playing. Mm-hmm. So the only way to look is to look within John Smith, and John Smith doesn't need fixing, because John Smith is merely creating this King Lear. Mm-hmm. Does that make sense?
No, to me, that's the whole ego versus essence thing, isn't it? And it's not versus either. It's, John Smith is ego, and John Smith is essence, and King Lear is ego. It's as simple as that. And I love that. Sid says something that I love as well. And it's ego's not a bad thing. It's not a bad thing. It gets a bad rap. It's not a bad thing. In The Missing Link, Sid talks about we're all theosophers and we're all philosophers.
Right.
We learn by direct experience, but we also learn from the opinions of other people. Mm-hmm. And to live your life just from one part of it, you live half a life. So we need this intellectual understanding of other people's experience, and that helps us delve into our internal experience, which means we get the best of both worlds.
Yeah, fantastic. Yeah.
So I love that you're on this retreat, and I don't knock any of this stuff, because it all helps us learn more.
Right.
And I love that. Rupert Spira, I've got a number of his books and I've read them. but he's not my teacher.
Right.
Eckhart Tolle is, Sadhguru is, you know, Sid Banks, you know, Jan Chipman, Elsie Spittle. We all have people we resonate with at certain points.
Right. Mm.
But I see what Rupert is pointing to. Absolutely. I'm just a bit more into the humanness of it all.
Right, absolutely. I mean, he teaches the direct path, what they call the direct path.
I'm more of a middle ground girl.
is middle ground, yeah. Well, I mean, again, it's what I love is that idea of, if I'm creating this, going back to NLP, if I am creating King Lear, well, what fun is that?
Exactly.
Because, you know, it doesn't matter if King Lear has a problem. That's fine. That's part of it. It'd be really, really horrifically boring if King Lear just, you know, grew up and had a great childhood, and then he got married, and you know, and then he passed away with having perfect life. That would be a pretty damn boring show to watch, wouldn't it?
Absolutely. And you know, it's these opportunities for learning which you don't wish on anybody, but they're just a natural journey for all of us. They help to shape us, they deepen our understanding, and that's the human journey. That's the soul's journey.
Right.
You know?
Right, absolutely. And then going back to the ultimate Sydney Banks quote, for me anyway, is if people were not afraid of their experience, then that alone would change the world. And that, for me, that resonates with that King Lear approach, because you would not be afraid of any experience. Easier said than done, I appreciate.
Yeah, absolutely. But your reaction time gets quicker.
Right. Yes.
Which is so cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. So cool. Thank you, Lee.
Thank you.
Oh, there's Andrea.
Hi. Just what keeps I keep getting this memory keeps popping in my head from, I think I was about 13, because we lived in Madrid at that point, and I was so homesick for Scotland. I used to spend a lot of time listening to Scottish folk music and stuff like that, and thinking, oh, poor me. And I can remember looking in my bedroom mirror, crying my heart out. And then all of a sudden, the next minute, I was just like looking at my face and laughing. And then I was changing all my expressions and all these different emotions. And it was the first time I actually realised that there was some kind of separation from my emotions, so that I didn't have to be stuck. I didn't have to be stuck in that distraught, upset feeling, and that just with a change of like almost like a mask changing, that I could be in a good feeling again. And it wasn't really a thing I thought, oh, this is amazing, this is like so deep, you know. It just happened. And then from that, I can see over time where I learned to not hang on to feelings for a long period of time. It just would be uncomfortable, so I would just change it, you know. So, but I don't know why that kept popping up in my head earlier when you were speaking. So
probably a reminder, Andrea, because that's what the brain does. It pops things up when it thinks it's helping you. It brings these carrying the thoughts across time just to give you information that it thinks it will be useful. And I think that's great, because all of us have had these experiences, and we've either seen them or we haven't. And so you'll continually be given these experiences, just in different ways, different formats, different content, to show you that separation. Although there isn't really separation.
No, I know. I was kind of thinking, even when Lee was saying there about John Smith and King Lear, it's like that's what it was like as well. That whole acting kind of feeling and experience of like, this is just all made up, and it's not really what's going on. But yeah.
But I love that, and that's something to play with. Again, it's not necessarily a bad thing. Ego's not a bad thing.
No.
I've told a story a long time ago about one time I was doing some work with the Department of Defence in Scotland, and I walked in and I wasn't feeling particularly well this morning, and there's a kind of holding bay they keep you in until you're fact checked and you're allowed through. And I was sitting there and I had flu. I just felt a bit rotten. And so my state of mind was sort of, fluctuating, and I was aware that it was fluctuating, but not that much. And this guy came in and he had on his full gear, the sort of the gun and the baton and his army uniform and stuff. And I had an intake of breath because I'm not used to seeing people with guns, and we're not used to that in Scotland, and guns. And he was a big guy, and I had this huge intake of breath, and I felt scared. And even in that moment of feeling scared, this fresh thought popped into my mind. And the fresh thought was, oh my God, he's playing dress up. The way a wee boy would play, playing soldier, or we would play nurse when we were younger, or I'd put on my business suit and all of a sudden I was a professional. That's King Lear. That's ego. And you can play with that and see it for what it is. How often have you had to have a conversation with someone and it was a conversation that you've been dreading, and then all of a sudden you just follow into a space and you deliver that from a space of love and kindness that you never thought you had, and it's easy. And then think back to a time when you had that similar conversation, and you had that conversation from a space of fear, and there was the mask went on, and you were acting this tough person who you didn't really feel like, you were pretending to be like. And to be honest, I've never felt stronger and more powerful, yet more loving and gentle than I do now. And that's coming from essence, coming from what's true for me in the moment, rather than what I think I should do, or I think I should say, or how people want me to be. And I remember doing a talk years ago for the One Thought Institute, and Leela had put in all the marketing materials, oh, Jackie will have you laughing and it'll be really funny. And I said, Leela, I don't know if I always show up like that. I don't know if that's who I am. And I love that. I don't know who I'm going to show up as. I always show up as me, whoever me is in that moment. Sometimes I'm up my head and sometimes I'm not. But I understand when I'm not most of the time these days. It's been really beautiful. There's a number of ladies on this call who are in my wild and wise inner circle. And during these calls for me, it's been beautiful to really drop down into a much deeper space of love. And we've just started, and I'm finding it pretty mind-blowing, because I've done that I do that in one-to-ones with my clients, but doing that with you guys is just, I just can't wait for this journey. It's just so exciting, already where we're going and what we're doing. So, yeah, Jessie.
So one thing I've been reflecting on as Carolina and Wayne and Jackie have been talking is just, I think Jackie mentioned this earlier in the call about how you just hold loving space and how powerful that is for people. It's just, it changes lives. And another thing that's come up for me that I've known but's become more clear during this call is I've had a few roles, I'd call them like helping professional roles, where I was an advisor for college students, and you just hold space, and it's so easy for me to see in other people who are freaking out just how okay they are, and how hard it is to feel that for myself sometimes, or how much I feel like I need fixing. But I have sophomore college students come freaking out about something or another. You just hold space, and it's like, you are okay. it's going to be okay. You're beautiful. You're doing the right stuff. It's kind of interesting to me how I feel like, for me at least, it's easier to hold space for other people to hopefully feel that energy, but it's harder to give that energy to myself. And I'm getting better at it.
Yeah, no, I know you are. And it's interesting to me that that's a beautiful story with some gorgeous hypnotic language in it. And is that true?
Mm. Yeah, I can just apply that energy to my own ego, my own essence.
Jessie, you are that energy. You only think you're not.
Mm. Gosh, that's wonderful. Thank you.
You're welcome.
I love when you were talking about what this brought from the being John Smith or James Smith doing the King Lear. And I'm thinking how great, because I don't have to be John Smith and I don't have to be King Lear. Like every day I can sort of like, in a way, make up whatever I want. And I love, Jackie, what you were saying as a reminder is what wisdom brings you when you need it. And a few days ago, I was I had this memory about when I used to be an actress, and when you really find the character, it's like you let it breathe through you. It just takes over. Like the character knows what to do, and you know how they like different things, so they smell different things. So it's like being a kid, just playing, just playing. And but what happens is that when you're on stage, the most impactful actors are the ones that are really present, and that's what the Actor Studio brought to the table, and Lee Strasberg, and what happens is that you are not the same. You need to know that you are not the same person that is doing that character every day. If not, you just go and repeat like a parrot the same lines. That character is dead. So you're not serving that character in the right way. And you have to feel what's going on with the audience, because that will dictate, in a way, the pace of your words and how, if you're connecting or not, if you are present enough. And because you are Carolina or John Smith or whoever, you tend to forget lines or things happen. The power cuts. So in the moment, you have to be incredibly present to let something bubble up and either fill up that space or come to life. And if you are very present, that really happens. And the audience are usually very grateful. Very grateful. And I've seen it happen in my own experience, and I've seen it happen with other people on stage. So that analogy I love, because I thought I was stuck being whoever I was, doing this role of what Carolina should be. What Carolina should be perceived as, and the things I shouldn't be or shouldn't think, or that were wrong. But I think we discovered that we could just, every day, it's like you receive on the post the biggest selection of roles you can receive, and then you can choose whatever you want to do. And if you don't like it, you can move to something else.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. We all know what love feels like. We all know that feeling of pure presence and love. It's in the moments that you hold your newborn child. It's in the moments, like I said, that you watch a sunset. There's a gorgeous feeling of presence, essence, absolute consciousness, oneness that needs no words. People feel that from you when you're with them. They feel an energy that's grounded. It's like a tree that can bend in the wind, but the roots are absolutely solid underneath. And that bending in the wind is just responding to life. And that's beautiful, to be able to respond to life without your branches breaking off every other day because you're reacting. Completely different feeling. And you don't even need to say anything to anyone. They can feel it. People can feel when your mental energy is all over the place, and they can feel when you're quiet. Love, essence, pure consciousness is just still. It's going nowhere. It's got nowhere to go. And when you can be with another human being, really understanding what they in their human form are experiencing as another soul who works exactly the same way. And I don't care whether it's a dog or it's a cat or it's a pheasant or it's all sentient beings. To be able to be with another soul and just be with them allows them to be heard in ways that they've never been heard before. And when you give yourself permission, Jessie, to do the same for yourself, you drop into that. Because that's who we are. It's not what we deserve, or it's just who we are. That's our natural state. Everything else is just a tornado going on around the eye of the storm, because the eye of the storm is always still and quiet. The tornado, the outside or the outside of the hurricane, is just personal thinking. Nothing to do with you. It's going to do what it does. And when you can see that spinning around on the outside, knowing that everything on the inside is just perfect, it doesn't matter what issue or problem or conversation topic you're having with anyone and with yourself. That stillness is always there. Pure presence, love, whatever you want to call it. And that absolute consciousness will guide you to do whatever it is that you're meant to do. Say, think, it will come. I think that's a lovely place to stop.
It's a lovely place to stop.
That's beautiful.
Well, thank you guys for having me. I really appreciate it, and I appreciate all of you for coming on. can I just give a shout out to my gorgeous friend Helen Goldstein, who helped me understand that it was okay to have a slice of sourdough?
Absolutely, absolutely. Thank you. And
Good.
Helen, yeah, go.
No, thank you. Thank you for the thanks, and I'm glad you're enjoying it.
Thank you so much for being here. Jackie, we can't thank you enough. And I have to say, there are many moments I found myself as a woman finding Jackie's experience when she shares very, very powerful. There have been moments where I saw Jackie and I thought, well, if Jackie can go through this, so can I. If Jackie can see it this way, so can I. And for me, it's because of that amazing, simple way of Jackie's presence, sharing what she sees. So Jackie, we couldn't be more grateful of having you here, because you didn't have to build yourself a massive, I don't know, company or fly with a whatever big, you know what I'm saying? Like what I've seen with Jackie is the simpler, the better, the more connected there, and the rest just followed for you.
Absolutely.
So you're absolutely amazing.
I'm not really.
You
I'm
are.
not. I really am not. I'm just ordinary. I just have been given a gift of being able to see how to have an extraordinary experience of my life. You know, there's nothing different about me to any of you guys. But thank you for, stroking that part of ego that sometimes likes to be made to feel special. But really, the more ordinary and the more humble and the more simple you see me, the happier it makes me. But thank you anyway.
People find you.
People can find me at JacquieForde.com. I have a very unique spelling, but you'll find it eventually. And there's also a Facebook page called Unashamedly Human, and there's a podcast, and there's going to be a school, and there's also a book, that'll all be done in the right time. So they're all in progress at the moment.
Brilliant, and we will put your details.
Yeah.
Thank you, Wayne.
And we're still promising you a trip to Scotland that never happened, but it will happen as soon as they let us. I should say. I've been wanting to go, and
me too. Even more now.
Even more now. So thank you everybody so much for being here. You're awesome, and it's really your presence that also helps us go on with what we're doing, and we learn so much from you, and just even being here for us is super amazing. So next Wednesday we're gonna have Nikki Bartley. Nikki Bartley works especially with companies, and she's going to talk about the corporate world. I think she was one of my mentors when I did Clarity with Jamie Smart on the first on my first course with Jamie Smart, and it didn't go really well when when I met her. I just thought, like, who is this lady? She's just like, who does she think she is? And I have learned now that that's not a bad indication when when I feel that. Then I have, I have to get like to actually see why they have that reaction. And I have to say, Nikki, once we were both like, oh, I am your mentor, and who are you? I've been around the principals for a while. So we were like in this, engaging the horns sort of thing. And then this connection between just human beings, just two people started, and we would talk about things, and we'd both cry and we'd both laugh, and so that's the main reason, because like when you didn't have much contact with Nikki, but what I experienced with Nikki was so powerful and such a loving experience when I was starting there, and she was sort of helping me around. So I need to remember what the name of so she's going to be talking about wholehearted leadership, and I'm sure we're going to be in for a total treat. So thank you so much, Jackie, again, for being here.
No problem.
I love you.
And thank you to you and Wayne for holding this space to have these conversations. It's a beautiful resource for people, and you've got some amazing guests coming on. So thank you for you guys stepping up and becoming more visible. It's appreciated.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay.
Lots of love.
Lots of love.
Bye, everybody. Bye, my wild and wise sisters. Mwah. See you soon. Bye.
Bye.